Hello? I'm really excited that you guys are here. So my name is Vanessa, as I introduced myself before. I work at Sahar Ventures, as Sahar Sparks team lead. I'm gonna say a little bit, and this is my colleague. His name is Liginiko. Did I? Okay, Ligi. He's from Fern Marketing. I'm gonna give a little bit background about Sahara Ventures, and he's gonna give a little bit of background about Fern, and we're gonna have our main man come in. Perfect. Great. So Sahara Ventures is a group of companies with three companies. First, its main mission is building a stable innovation ecosystem in Africa. So we do this by connecting different dots, and we started by dealing with Sahara Consulting, which is a project for impact project management firm. And then we have another dot that we're currently working on, which is our Sahara Accelerator, which we actually work with startups, help them to be investor ready, and invest in some of the startups. And then we have our event management wing, which is our corporate event management wing, and our flagship event, which will be in this October, is Sahara Specs, themed African fourth industrial revolution. And I'm looking at all these faces. I see you're interested. So I'm looking forward to seeing you this October. Perfect, perfect. Please, you're welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa. Pleasure to be here. Ligi, don't struggle to call me by full name. From Fan Marketing. So Fan Marketing, we deal with 360 marketing communication, from strategy, execution, evaluation, and go on and on. And we also do event management. So we're really excited to have Vusi and have one of his masterclass session with us. I think you guys are gonna enjoy it. And Vanessa, do you wanna? All right.
Be a pleasure. Thank you. So, where should I start? Okay. So I was going through his bio and getting to know him more. And I don't know what word should I start with. First and foremost, he's a serial entrepreneur, a global speaker that actually his career started taking shape from the age of 17. That's so impressive. And above all, he's regarded as one of the most disruptive forces in the venture capital in Africa. So if you're an entrepreneur here, you should, stay closer. He's the best-selling author, but my most favorite is a family man. So I'm just going to take this opportunity, because it's me, ask him his first question: how is he able to balance all that and being a family man? So that is Vusi, Thembekwayo. And you have the best audience, the best entrepreneurs from Tanzania. You're welcome.
Jambo, do I need this? Or do I not? I don't think I need it, but I don't know about the guys who are shooting on camera, because I need somebody to hold my sunglasses. Sean, come get these. Thank you. Sure. I'll tell you how this masterclass happened, actually. So I landed. In fact, before we left, I said to my team back home, they said to me, okay, so we're going to Tanzania. And I said to them, great, when's the masterclass? They said, no, there's no masterclass. We're going to Tanzania for Photocom. I said, no, I don't go anywhere without there being a masterclass. Because my whole thing is that I think actually what holds a lot of us entrepreneurs back is that we think in our own little local places, and the knowledge that we amass, we don't share with each other, because knowledge has a premium. You go to business school, you pay a lot of money to get an MBA or some sort of chartered qualification. So the idea that you're going to give it away and share it freely is kind of ridiculous. So my team says, well, there's no masterclass. I said, well, we'll see. Get on the plane, we take off, we land. We're in the car driving with Ning, and the first thing I said to him was, when's the masterclass? He says, well, I don't know about the masterclass, I don't have enough time. I said, excuse me, we're here, there's time. Yeah? We have a management meeting at the office that's actually happening today, and I was supposed to be at the meeting, and I said to them, well, you guys have the meeting without me, because I'm not going into Tanzania and not speaking with entrepreneurs. It's for me, this conversation is my lifeblood. It's literally how I get inspiration. It's sharing with you and you sharing with me. And then they said, yeah, okay, so we'll do a masterclass. And they wouldn't come back to me with the details. They made one big mistake. Yeah? They forgot that I was meeting with the CEO of Vodacom. So in the evening I met with him and I said to him, Hisham, when is the masterclass? He says, what masterclass? I said, tell your people to tell your people to make sure that there's a masterclass. So that's how we all got here. Okay. So here's the format of how these go. I'll tell you actually why I started doing the masterclasses is because I really think that money in the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the continent of Africa goes to the wrong places. We spend more money booking really fancy events, having amazing decor, screens, pay speakers a lot of money, and that money would probably be better used and have a higher multiplier if we pulled it out of pulling events and actually put it into the entrepreneurs. Yeah? Because kind of what's really happened is the ecosystem that supports entrepreneurs today is worth more than entrepreneurs collectively put together. And that's what's wrong. So I thought to myself, well, this is a problem, but I'm not going to fix it by standing on the sidelines and complaining. It was a Wednesday, I'll never forget, and I was on my drive to the office, and I got on my phone, I did a IG live video, and I said, I'm having a masterclass at my office for free. Anybody wants to come, just come. Which is why those of you who are hitting me up on social media, some of you were going, how do we register? I said, just come. What are they going to do? Chase you away? Come. Was that you? People were like, how do we register? What's the cost? It's free. Come. Right? I have this thing about just show up and people are not going to chase you out. Like they really feel bad if they tell you, well, it's kind of full. No, it's not. There's space. You can sit on the floor. You can stand in the back. There's ample space. There's ample space, right? So anyway, I did a live video and I said to entrepreneurs, just rock up. Anybody who wants to come, just come. I didn't at the time kind of anticipate what would have happened since then. Because now we've had probably about 8 of these masterclasses. We've done one in Namibia. We're doing this one. And doing one in Botswana. I've been asked to come do one in Nigeria, in Guinea-Conakry, all over the place. Requests are coming up. And I only have one ask. It has to be free for the entrepreneurs. However we do it, however we pay for it, the entrepreneur in the room pays nothing. Because if we focus on making sure that it's free for the people in the room, guess what happens? There's enough of us that can make it. All we need is 1% of us to really build amazing businesses. And then all of us are going to have amazing economies, right? One last thought that I want to get started. So if you ever have the opportunity to visit my office in Joburg, kind of what we've done is we've got currencies. In fact, I saw it in the picture. Yeah. See that in the frame there? This is one of our very first masterclasses. You see all the entrepreneurs sitting on the floor. And the reason we did that was because we were like, well, where are we going to get the cost for the furniture? I said, just let them sit on the floor. Anybody wants to bring a chair can bring a chair. And a couple of people brought a chair, right? One lady brought a yoga mat. She then left it in my office. Now it's my yoga mat. See how that works? It's a perfect ecosystem of give and take. But if you come to my office, we've got currencies hanging all over the office, actually. We've got, I think the one I've got behind me in my office is a $10 trillion note from Zimbabwe. But I've got currencies from your country, and I've got a few yesterday. And then I've got currencies from all over the continent. In my main boardroom, I've got 3 currencies that hang. It's the Zim dollar, the American dollar, and the UK pound. And it's important why I want to tell you this. So, the tree that died to be turned into pulp, which became the paper on which we created that note, didn't get to choose the value of its death. The tree died. But depending on whether or not the leaders of those countries knew what they were doing, entrepreneurs were given space to innovate, and businesses were given space to create value, you end up with either the most disabused currency in the world, the Zimbabwean dollar, the most used currency in the world, the American dollar, or the most valuable currency in the world, the British pound. All 3 of them could literally be made from the same tree of pulp. What this means then is that the input is clearly not the tree that creates value. The input is us. We are the multiplier. Any of you here who employ people will know what I'm talking about. People are a multiplier. If you hire the wrong people, you will multiply bad energy, bad attitude. If you hire good people, you'll multiply in kind the same. But people are the multiplier. So format in terms of how this works, there are three very simple rules. The first one is there's no such thing as a stupid question. So whatever the question, ask it. The second one is to please have fun. That's important. And the third one is even if I'm wrong, I'm right. Great. So how I like to do these is rather than teach kind of off the bat, let's take a few questions. And the question could be about anything. I'll tell you very quickly what I'm doing with my firm. So 4 years ago, I sold my business, just over 4 years ago. And I took the proceeds of my business and I created our Vusi firm. And what it is I'm doing is I want to build the largest venture capital firm south of the Sahara Desert. Yeah, so we've said to ourselves, we want to spend the first 5 years making sure we understand the Southern Africa story. We've just started the license process now to get into East Africa because we're setting up in Kenya on Mombasa Road. I've actually been there, I went to see the offices that we'd get into. And we also want to get into Nigeria. The challenge we have with our continent, and I'm so glad that the African Union now passed the Africa Free Trade Act, is that there's no free movement of goods. That's really the major challenge. See, in the US, if Jay-Z makes an album in New York, he can sell it in Los Angeles and not pay import-export duties. Yeah? When Apple creates a product in Silicon Valley, they can sell the same product in Michigan or Denver or anywhere else without paying any import duties. You create a product here and you want to get it into my country. Before you leave your country, there's a duty. And by the time you land in my country, there are more duties. And so what really inhibits our ability to create fast-growing entrepreneurship ecosystems is that rather than think as a whole of 1 billion entrepreneurs, we think of ourselves as small little countries of a couple of million people. And then our middle class in each of our countries is not big enough to sustain all of us as entrepreneurs. Guys, the power of the US, which is now the power of China, is the size of its middle class. There's 300 million people in the US, 200 million of them are middle class. Which means if you create a product, a phone, a computer, a watch, a ring, a shirt, you have a potential market of 200 million people. That's almost collectively the buying power of all of the middle class of all of our continent. So what all of us should be lobbying for, rather than our own individual interests in our own individual countries, we should all be lobbying for the ability to be able to work together. So in my mind, even though we run an accelerator program, I don't see Sahara Ventures running an accelerator as a competitor. Because I recognize that if they get it right here, and I get it right where I am, all of us collectively create, as the Spanish say, the rising seas which elevate all ships. If the seas don't rise, it doesn't matter what ship you're in. You're going nowhere anyway. We are going to have to learn and disabuse ourselves of probably the one thing that holds all of our parents as prisoners today. This thing called borders. All of our parents suffer from it. Yours and mine both. We think in nation-state idea. We use this thing called a documented ID or the passport to give us a sense of identity. But until we learn to disabuse ourselves of that, we're going to battle. Your middle class, guys, isn't big enough to sustain your business. Which is why I've spoken to some of the entrepreneurs here. Most of you are building businesses that are enterprise-facing. Your largest customers are big businesses. So if you're in a software business, you're building a software as a service for big business. If you're in the consumer business, you're building a consumer platform that has some way to unlock a big business. Why? Because you recognize that the big business can give you a big purchase order and can spend money and pay you money inadvertently. That works the other way around in developed economies. In developed economies, you build a business and you want to get it into the homes of millions of people. That's what we have to do. We've got to figure out a way of getting all the little traders I saw when I was driving here this morning, the ones that I saw yesterday, we've got to figure out a way of getting those people into the formalized economy and getting the formalized economy as big as possible so that we can create a middle class as big as possible. We don't do that. I promise you now, in 40 years' time, in a place similar to this, yours and my children will be sitting around talking about how do we build an entrepreneurship ecosystem in Africa. We're just going to have to disabuse ourselves of the things that hold us back. Great. Okay, let's have some fun. Let's start with a few questions. Any questions? Pens I have here. So, usually what happens at this point is people go, my question, I have one, is either not a smart one. And then what we need is we need 3 people to ask really brave questions up front, and then the floodgates open, as it were. So, any questions in the room? Any question? Could be tech-related, finance-related. Yes, sir. We met yesterday.
Yes, we
Yeah, good man.
Hey, yeah, we met yesterday. And when we met, we spoke about, you mentioned that you are currently raising, correct?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know, on your opinion, what are the top 5 big no-nos when it comes to raising funds?
For your business?
For that you've learned, that you picked up, the top 5 big no-nos that you shouldn't do when you're raising.
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. Look, I mean, I can tell you, so we spent the first 4 or 5 years of our business. When I started my business, and this is a great question, by the way. Sorry, your name? Albert. Like Fat Albert? That guy? Right. I think one of the major errors entrepreneurs make is you guys raise too early. And I know that's not a popular point of view. And I think you raise too early because that's the narrative that comes from Silicon Valley, right? There's a disease going around now where entrepreneurs build businesses for the purpose of raising more money, not for the matrix of delivering value. I know this because we're sitting with a tech investment in Cape Town that I've been trying to disinvest in for the past 2 years, and it's been proving impossible. But the main challenge we've got is every single time there's a new funding round, there's a valuation that goes up. But the matrices that drive the valuation going up don't make sense and are not unit standard every time. So the one time the valuation goes up because there's more users. The other time the valuation goes up because each user is spending more money. Another time the valuation goes up because now we're in more geographies. And I keep saying to my co-investment partners, I don't care what the unit is, just make it so that I understand it and it makes sense. So the question you asked is, what are the top 5 mistakes? The first is you raise too early. Too early. And the reason you raise too early is because you want somebody to pay you to follow your dreams. Look, if you have an idea, that's your idea. Would you agree? Do you think I have ideas? Yeah, so why would I take my money to fund yours? Why don't I fund mine? This has been created not only by the idea that people are raising in Silicon Valley too early, but aid agencies are actually just duplicitous in this because they have money that they want to disperse to as many entrepreneurs as possible. It's not a problem. We've just got to agree the stage you've got to get your business to before your business can deploy capital. Otherwise, what happens is entrepreneurs are raising money to iterate a business model until they find a business model that works. I'm sorry, if you need money to iterate a business model until you find a business model that works, you are not an entrepreneur. You're a well-paid manager who works for themselves and has the illusion of entrepreneurship. You want to post Instagram videos for likes and comments. In my books, how you earn being an entrepreneur, sleepless nights, no money in the bank, no food in the fridge, no friends, no disposable income, no credit, and you're still doing it anyway. And that's what I mean by raising too early. Because I've seen guys walk spreadsheet. This is how much money I need. This is the runway. Yeah, run it yourself. Why am I running it? Run it yourself. I want to see you take your full pension and invest it in the business. Then I want to see you take your house and mortgage it and invest it in your business. I want to see you sell your big car and buy a Bora Bora. Use that to get to work and invest that in your business. Yeah? I want to see your wife leave you for the guy she left him for you and go back to him. But because in my mind, guys, it only becomes real when you have been through so much and you've given so much for the little you have. If I make it too easy for you, it's a bit like a child who's trying to walk and I won't let them fall. It's no good. You've got to allow entrepreneurs to fail. For me, that's the ecosystem of how it works. Make sense? So the first mistake is raise too early, okay? And what raise too early means? Raise too early simply means you raise before you've iteratively proved to yourself that you can do it by your own. Guys, I'm busy. Let's not make a noise here. You iteratively prove to yourself that you can do it for yourself without anybody helping you. That's when you know that it's time to raise. So first 5, I didn't raise anybody's money. I took my own money. Of what we're going to using this, I came up with a hypothesis of what we're going to do. I drew up on one piece of paper, thesis, and we did it past 5 years. So every bit of money I've lost, guess who feels the pain? Me. Now busy raising 150 million USD. What do you think that means? When I have a conversation with potential limited partners about investing in our fund, it's not an academic one. I can tell them what works and what doesn't work because I've done it with my money. Yeah? Too early. That's the mistake we're making. The second mistake I think we're making. Thank you. The second mistake I think a lot of entrepreneurs make is you're not clear about what the story is. So ask yourself this question. If you were to summarize the business you're in one paragraph that was three sentences long or 3 lines long, how would you write the story of your business? What is the story of your business? Yeah? Most of us are just not clear on what that story is. We presuppose to know, but we don't. And we presuppose to know how we could get there, but we also don't. So the second thing is get the story right. The third is probably the most important as I think about them, which is what is the problem that you're solving? And is the problem big enough that you can scale it? Yeah? Because if you can't scale on the problem, then you're either solving a problem for a niche market, which means you're going to get a few customers, and they must collectively be able to pay you a lot of money to sustain your business, or you're going to get a few customers who can't afford your product anyway. And a lot of businesses fail by getting a few customers who can't afford what they're offering. The third big African problem right now is we are apping everything. Everything is an app. App. Jesus. Guys, I'm sorry. We live in a continent where there are people today who will not have food. You really think the biggest problem is your app? Really? Because we're watching too much Netflix. That's what we're doing. So the feeder of the intelligence we're using is wrong. We're using that feeder of intelligence to build our businesses, but you're building a business for a place you're not in. I was wondering about this. I was like, how come nobody? I remember the first time I went to Uganda was 11 years ago. So the first time I went on a border was 11 years ago. And nobody needs to say anything about the safety records of borders. So in my mind, I'm wondering, how come nobody has thought about how do you integrate the border network into a sophisticated computer platform that you can tell network, availability, price, and safety record of the rider? How come nobody's done that? But we're all building apps for stuff that's easy to do. The reason we're not doing it is because it's hard to do, right? I mean, they're informal, many of them. Today he does it, tomorrow he doesn't. One does it, he doesn't have a license. Here's the thing about building businesses of value. The more difficult the problem, usually the more money there is in fixing it. So actually where you should go is to the most difficult thing to do. That's where you should go, because that's where there's real value. Yeah? And then the third, the final one about what we're doing. Thank you very much for the coffee, by the way. The final one about kind of the mistakes we make is we are not patient enough with ourselves. I think, and maybe, I don't know if you guys feel it too, but I think that there is an impatience that's come with this thing called entrepreneurship now, right? It is in part because, guys, we're lying to each other. If I ask any of you in this room, how's business? What's the first thing you're going to say? Good. Bullshit. It's month end. You don't even know how you're going to pay yourself, let alone how you're going to pay your staff. You don't have enough money to make your tax payments. Yeah, it's not good. But you're not going to say, man, I'm this close. Say. Because we're lying to each other, we deny each other the opportunity to learn from each other. I'm just all about being authentic, be genuine, be honest. I told the guys yesterday at Vodacom, a year ago, I almost lost my business. Me, completely lost my business. You know, it's not easy, guys. It's hard, and we've got to be able to have the conversations. This is hard. Tell the truth. Half the time, you don't even know what you're doing. Am I right? Yeah? Have you ever, I don't know if this ever happened, have you ever sat in a meeting and people are talking and you go, why am I here? You go, is this what my life has come to? Is this, yeah? Has that ever happened to you? You ever sat in a meeting and people are talking, but there's too much noise in your head? You're thinking, I really need to send that email, and then what I've got to do is I've got to draft that to-do list, and then I've got to, has that ever happened to you? Most of us have no clue what we're doing. You hope you're doing the right thing, but you don't know for sure. Yeah? And guess what? That's okay. Because being an entrepreneur is lonely. Can we have that conversation? Like, this is a lonely thing. I was talking to someone about, a very different amount. I was talking to her about this yesterday. How many of you here have that moment? It happens to me once every month. Once every month. But how many of you here have that moment where you wonder, are you doing the right thing? In other words, could you have done something else with your life? Yeah? If you've left corporate, you know what I'm talking about. Because you're seeing your friends in corporate get bigger checks, bigger jobs, nicer offices, better air conditioning, good credit. Yeah? So half the time, it goes. Just in your mind, you go, am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my talent? Should I be doing something else? Is this what my life is? Because it's lonely. Being an entrepreneur is lonely. I honestly believe that the most important thing we can do is lower the fences of our pretense and just be more authentic. Just be more authentic. Own your story. One of the things I found is that if you're more authentic, life will meet you halfway. But you have to be authentic. If you just tell the truth about where you are, you'll be very surprised who's in the room. You'll be very surprised who's listening and how much farther they can take you. Okay? Next question. Yes, sir. I recognize you. Just speak, comrade. Just speak.
All right. My name is Mickey Daddy. And all right. My name is Mickey Daddy, and my questions falls on value propositions in entrepreneurs ecosystem. As we see in most of African context, the gap between middle class and low class and high class is very big. Now, when you're creating value for low class or middle class people, what should be the considerations on value propositions so that you can tap this market and change that tradition you have said that we go for bigger company to serve bigger companies so that we can just get more checks and create the values for these people, considering the issue of materials and technology we have in Africa? That's my question.
Yeah, sorry, you guys mind if I double click? So I just want to make sure I understand this. So you're kind of doing this right. And the question you're asking is, how do I build a business so that it adds value to the base of pyramid?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, the value, value proposition to that bottom.
Yeah, look, I can tell you for free that you don't even need me to answer that question. That question has been answered so many times. There's so many companies today that thrive at the base of pyramid, right? Mm-hmm. The challenge about thriving at the base of pyramid is the way you think about the architecture of your business model has to be different. This market is typically price sensitive. Yeah? It also makes frequent purchases of small quantities. I'll say it again. Price sensitive, frequent purchases, small quantities. It's the inverse to what happens at the top here. I'm going to use cars as an example. I overuse cars just because I love cars. I race V12, so that's why I use cars a lot. But the person who buys a Bentley doesn't buy a Bentley as often as the person who buys a Toyota. Bentley doesn't release Bentleys as often as Toyota releases new Corollas. So the iteration of product at base of pyramid is faster than iteration of product at the top of the pyramid, which means the release cycle is typically in shorter periods of time. You'll also notice that the innovation jump from one product to the next, to the next, to the next is not quite as big a quantum leap as what happens at the top here. You're iterating here consistently over and over, but you're making very small adjustments. So if I'm a Unilever, for instance, Paul, who's the global CEO of Unilever, is a good friend of mine, and one of the things they started doing, they had a strategy for South America, Africa, India, and China. And actually their whole strategy was about how do they take the quantity of the product that they sell from, say, 1 kilogram of washing powder to 100 milliliter whatever of washing powder, right? Because if they can make it a tenth of the unit, then the person who can't afford the kilogram can buy the tenth of the unit every week. And collectively it means that they can buy over time more. Make sense? So I think, and it's a great question, I'll tell you how we're trying to do it in the venture capital space. And everybody else in my space thinks I'm crazy, but I've said to them, rather than give entrepreneurs, say, because if you capital raising, any of you here who've done it will know what I'm talking about. First you go through a huge process of coming up with your pitch, then meeting with the investors, then they do a due diligence, then they give you a term sheet. That process takes anything between 3 to 6 months. But that's because you're raising $1 million, say, yeah? So I said, well, why don't we, rather than give $1 million, why don't we give $50,000? Why don't we take the term sheet, which is a document written by lawyers, yeah? We're going to pay them a lot of money to do it. Why don't we take that term sheet and condense it into an A4 document that I and the entrepreneur can collectively agree on? What are the terms? What am I getting? What are you giving? And what are the covenants that we've both got to make sure that we meet? Because if we can standardize the term sheet, we can make the loan amount smaller, then rather than you wait 3 years before you're raising funding for your business, you can start raising 6 months or a year into your business, and every 3 months you can collectively raise, and I can give you gateways to meet every 3 months. When you came to see me, you had 5,000 users. Get to 5,500, I'll give you another $5,000. Right? That I think is kind of how we need to do it, but the iteration process is what we need to change. The iteration process of what happens at base of the pyramid is very, very different. And then you really got to worry about price. This is a market share play. It's not a profit play. That's kind of why the US is scared of Huawei, right? It's market share, not profit. You know the Chinese guys. I'm going to tell you something about the Chinese that fascinates me. I've been studying them for some time now. Did you know it took the Chinese 72 dynasties to build the Great Wall of China? 72 dynasties over 5,000 years to build one wall. Just a wall. Trump hasn't started yet. So just to be clear, the Chinese understand long term. That's why when they started investing in ports, yeah, in much of East Africa, 15 years ago, everybody thought they were crazy. They knew exactly what they were doing. Now, they kind of run ports in East Africa. You can't land goods in East Africa without the Chinese having something to do with it. Which means that they've got a feeder market for their second-hand goods. They want to move something from Zhejiang province right into East Africa, they just do it. They run the ports. You know the biggest sea nation fighting Somali pirates is the Chinese Navy. Of course they are. They're a mercantilist nation. That's how they move their goods. Yeah? How many of you here are using a phone or a piece of technology by the Chinese? So this is my whole thing about think long term. As you're writing that business plan, you've got to ask yourself, what does this business look like in 50 years' time? I'm not saying you're going to be there in 50 years' time, God forbid. I don't want to be running my business in 50 years' time. But in 50 years' time, what does it look like? Yeah? Think long term. Cool. Next question. Yes, sir. Leslie. Yeah. Check 1, 2. Do you want me to beatbox for you? Do you want to give us a... Huh?
I'm good. My name is Leslie. I wanted to ask, you've mentioned something about one, this lecture at New York University.
Just keep going, man.
And the one thing he says is in America they tolerate failure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are very many entrepreneurs, because you'll fail, try again, fail,
Oh,
try
yeah.
again, something else. And but in China they don't. they don't really tolerate failure.
Yeah.
So you only have one goal. I wanted to ask, what is your failure threshold, number one? When it comes to venture, when you're doing the venture capital, when you're investing in companies, what's your failure
I can answer
threshold?
that zero because it's my money. Yeah, carry on.
No, in terms of what
Yeah,
you
I know what
normally
you mean,
do. Yeah. And number two, can the story change along the way? You
Of
say
course.
the story is very important, but can the story start as something else and end up something else?
Yeah.
And what percentage is normally like allowed or something like
It's a
that?
great question. So the question you're asking is about pivots, right? And stories should change because the material conditions under which we trade are changing all the time. You know, I don't want to get into the politics, but I was in your country for the first time 4.5 years ago. A lot's changed since then. A lot. A lot. Right? I mean, so if I was operating in this environment, my story might have changed materially. The story has to change. You know, it's like a movie, man. There's chapters to this thing, and depending on whether the good guy or the bad guy's winning, you know. Here's how I think about my journey in entrepreneurship. This is a true story. I think of myself as Rocky. So at the beginning, there's a nice opening scene. Then there's a bad guy. Then I meet the bad guy. Then the bad guy beats me. Then I go and train. Then I come back and beat the bad guy. All 5 Rocky movies, the format is exactly the same. And then somewhere in the middle it goes ten 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 ten. Yeah, it's a Rocky fan there. Yeah? But so the story absolutely can change. The question you're asking about failure is actually a very interesting one. For me, I don't think the question is whether or not you're failing. I think the question is whether or not you're improving. So even if you fail, are you failing forward, right? So in my business, I've spent the past 4 years failing. Because if I look at the balance sheet of my firm today and the balance sheet of where we were 4 years ago, we've regressed, we've gone backwards. I just told you, I took my own money and invested it, and some of it has come back in return. And the money that will come back in return, the businesses we're invested in are showing a growth valuation, but it's not a growth in cash holdings. Which means from an accounting perspective, unless I mark to market the value of that investment, I can't recognize it. So consistently in my balance sheet, I recognize the investment on the price of entry, not the current valuation, which is the smart thing to do because if I revalue the asset, I have to pay more tax. It's worth more money now. Make sense? So when an outside person looks at my balance sheet, they've gone, what are you doing? You're eroding value. You're losing money. Yeah? What I know is I'm getting smarter, much smarter. I'm learning about the trigger points of businesses. I'm learning at the stages at which we're good. An interesting question, by the way. When you approach VC funds, you've got to know what are they good at? What stage of investment are they good at? Because some guys are phenomenal at startup. I am terrible at startup. I don't have the patience for startups. I will smack you for not seeing stuff. I was like, just do it. But what I am great at is a growth business. When you got 2 or 3 customers, you want to get to 30 customers, that's my game. That I'm good at that, right? At a conceptualization, I have an idea, I'm starting off stage, I don't have the patience for it. Yeah? My wife says to me, we have 3 kids, my wife and I. My wife will tell you that she has 4 kids because I'm one of them. And the reason she says that is because I don't see my kids as kids, I want to play with them. Yeah? To me, I'm like, I want to have fun with this. That's kind of the same mindset I have for startups. I can't get to a point where there is something about which we can have a meaty conversation, then I'm happy to get it. Then I'm happy to help. Then I'm happy to take it to the next direction, right? So this thing about failing, as long as you are documenting for yourself where you are. So I'm going to give you some homework, all of you. Do any of you here have crucibles? Who practices crucibles? No one? No? Yeah, you don't know what crucibles is? It's a great new thing in the startup ecosystem. There's actually a diary that's being sold by Chilled Cow in New York. But Crucibles is the idea that you keep a diary and you write the diary at the end of every single month. And the format of the diary goes the following. Yeah? At the beginning of the month, where were you? In the month, what did you find? During the month, what did you fix? And at the end of the month, where are you now? And then at the end of it, you've got to make 3 commitments to yourself. It follows exactly that format. The reason it's called Crucibles is because it allows you, to your point, to keep the story consistent about what you're doing. And sometimes, as often happens at the end of a year, you go back 12 months and you go, wow, we've done a lot. So when I say, are you failing? The question should be, I'm learning. Yeah? That's really, so rather than I'm not really failing, I'm learning. I'm learning. You know, imagine you're a sportsman, right? I mean, Usain Bolt didn't run a 9.58 the first time he got on the track, but he ran it at the Olympics. You got to think about yourself in the same way. You have the potential to run a 9.58. You're just not going to run it the first time you get on the track. So iteratively, every single day when you show up at the track and you practice, your goal is to move closer towards that target. Okay? Ooh, now the questions are coming. We're firing up. Give it to the chap at the back, because you're close to him as it is.
Yeah.
Let's get a financial question as well. Yeah.
My name is Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Yes.
The Archangel Gabriel.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to actually extend the question, your response about learning
Yes.
in everything, in life, in other aspects of life.
Yes, yes.
What has been your strategy in learning of maybe you want to grow, you want to expand your business, you create more clients, customers. I find it very tricky, not only in business but in other things, but for this matter, an entrepreneurship activity.
So what has been my what?
Learning strategy on how you can navigate through challenges or opportunities ahead.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'll answer. It's a quick one, and then I want to show you guys something. But I'll answer that kind of actually very simple. So, any of you have mentors? Hands up, you have a mentor? Yeah, fire them. No, hey? Fire me too then. So, I'll tell you why, right? Because I think, this thing about mentors for me I find fascinating. Because I think actually the reason we have mentors is because we don't want to take ultimate accountability of our decisions. So we want to defer. Because it's lonely. So if I'm talking to me and I'm reasoning with me and Vusi's here, then I can ask Vusi the thing and I feel better about the decision I'm about to make. But the problem is, if I get it wrong, then I don't take full accountability. Yeah? I don't have mentors. This is the craziest thing. I have no mentors. What I do have are maps and mirrors. Works for me, I hope it works for you. Maps are people I consult with, usually once every 4 months, and I give them a sense of where I'm trying to go. And their job is just to tell me if I'm using the right navigation system. They don't even know they're doing it. So I'll tell you, one of them is a guy, South African guy who runs a bank. Very successful, very cool guy, actually quite young, he's like in his early 40s, but he's a banking executive. So often I'll meet with him and I'll tell him about the capital strategy of what we're doing. Yeah? I'll just say, let's have coffee. What doesn't he know? That as I tell him about my strategy, I know what he does for a living. So I know he's going to look and go, nah, you're going to take a wrong turn on about the third, just as you get to the third corner, you're going to turn right, you need to turn left there. He doesn't even know he's doing it. So if I go to him and say, be my mentor, now it's a formal thing. Now he must give me time. No, he doesn't have the time to do that, nor do I want him to. Yeah? See, if you put it in this way, then what you can do is you can have more than one person fulfill each role. Maps, guys, are people who are subject matter experts at the thing you're doing or have been through the path that you are about to go on. But they're not going to give you their time because they're busy. So what do you want to do? You just want their access. You just want their time. You want to ask them one question and then just get a sense of what they think about what you're thinking. And to test it, rather than have a mentor, you want to have about 5 maps. Ask them the same question and see what they think. Does this make sense? Yeah. I'm earning my standing ovation here. I'm killing it. Then mirrors. Mirrors are people who are going to connect to the human you. Very important. So my rabbi is a mirror. I'm not Jewish. I observe, but I don't practice. I'm Catholic, actually. But I have a rabbi who's very important in my life. Because even though I don't practice the same religious prescripts he does, there are very few people I know who have the level of wisdom he does. He has the ability to sit with me in 20 minutes and tell me if I'm talking rubbish. Because remember, guys, if I spend my time, and entrepreneurs, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you have a team that you manage, what is the first thing you do when you're an entrepreneur? You're motivating, you're inspiring, right? You're giving direction. Yeah, but you can't do it to yourself. Because you're going to lie to yourself. Like, guys, when people work, people are terrible at working in uncertainty, right? I mean, you see, when a company goes through retrenchments, what's the first thing that drops? Productivity. Because people start worrying about, do I need to fix my CV? So if you're an entrepreneur, the very first thing you're doing is creating a sense of certainty for your people. We're going to be okay. You don't even know if you're going to get paid month end. But you just, guys, we're going to be fine. We're great. The world is fantastic. Hoorah! You know, that's what you're doing. But you can't do that for yourself. That you've got to learn how to turn that switch off and switch on the real voice that goes, okay, so what are we doing now? And for me, my mirrors are fantastic at this. True story. So there's a big deal that we're invited to participate in. And as a limited partner who was looking to invest in a couple, they're a fund of funds, and they were looking to invest in a couple of VCs, and we bid. And they were looking to invest 50 million USD in each of the VCs. We're still in the bid process. But one of my mirrors, I was telling him about it, and he looks at me and he goes, even if they give you that money, I'm not sure you should accept it. I said, what? This is 50 million USD. Are you stupid, crazy, or mad? And he said to me, because, and it's his take, I don't have to agree with it. That's another thing about this. You don't have to agree. And he said to me, because I know these guys, and who you are going to have to be, and how you are going to have to run your business is not you. So you're going to take that money, but you're going to have to give up who you are. Isn't that powerful? That is huge. Yeah? Any of you here who work in spaces of big contracts, government contracts, tenders, know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah? Where there is the values and principles you have, and then there's the person you have to be to thrive in that space. So what do? You sign up to church and you pay 10% full tithe just to hope the Lord forgive you for these things you're doing. You pay your full 10%, full 10%. You don't even cheat the Lord. You know? So maps and mirrors, really try that. I do this, guys, and it's very, very powerful. And then the other thing about maps and mirrors is you change them all the time, depending on where in your journey you are. Vaynerchuk, Gary is, I'd like to say a mate of mine, but I know him, right? I belong in his kind of his like VIP ecosystem. We have an office in New York, so every so often when I'm there, I'll try and meet with him. But Gary, for me, is an amazing map of how to build a brand online. Like, people don't like Gary V, but they follow him. Now, what he does is not what I do. What he believes in is not what I believe in. But I love looking at his methodology and going, wow. Like, you know, he believes in content. I believe in context. Very big difference. He goes, send as much content as possible. I go, well, not really. You just got to make sure that the content you put out shapes people's context every time you do it. I'd far rather be rare but impactful than be everywhere. But I'm happy to look at his model as a map of how to build a social media brand. Make sense? Maps and mirrors, man. Very, very powerful. That list for me, I promise you now, probably changes every 3 months. I wish I had my diary. In fact, I think I do. Come see me after this. I think I do in my diary. I'll show it to you at the back. So I'm not making this up. Every 3 months. And I've got a list of names. Or people are right there, I go, I need to get good at stakeholder engagement because we're busy raising capital. And I need to talk to government officials. And I'm going to be doing media interviews. Shit. Who's going to help me with this? Oh, I know so-and-so. Write their name down. Reach out. Hey, so-and-so, how are you for a coffee? Then I'm going to have a conversation. Kind of, this is what we're doing. What do you think? They're going to give me 3-4 bits that I'm going to pay a lot of money for and a big media strategy for a media company to do. They've just given it to me. Maps and mirrors, man. Maps and mirrors. I want to show you this quickly. It tags on, and I was thinking about it while we were doing this. Just kind of get this down. I want to show you this very quickly, okay? This is a model of how you build a story when you're looking for investors to pitch in your business. It's just the way you want to kind of think about it, okay? And a couple of things you got to consider is this is kind of the journey map you want to follow anytime you're using a model to share with people what you're going to be sharing with them, especially if you're looking to raise capital, okay? So the first thing you want to think about is you want to think about telling them what don't they know. I'll explain these. The second is why should they care? Yeah? Question mark, Vusi. The third, I promise I'll explain this. The third is what makes you the authority. And the fourth is what must they do? I can't claim this. This is work of Africa's largest design agency. They're South Africa based. They're a company called Missing Link. They use this model. Really, really good. Anytime you're building a story to pitch to people, this is the format you want to follow. Okay? So, the first question you got to ask yourself is, what don't they know? The person you're talking to, what don't they know? Remember, you're involved in your business all the time, right? But you're pitching it to someone, either a new client, yeah, or somebody to invest in it, or a friend, yeah? Which means they, I promise you now, will not have the level of knowledge that you have. They usually have what we call user interface knowledge. Any of you here on Facebook or Instagram have user interface knowledge. The people working at Facebook or Instagram have levels of knowledge 12 stairs lower than what you and I have. That's their job. Yeah? So if I'm going to stop thinking like a user and start thinking like an investor, the things I don't know, I need to know. Does that make sense? But the thing is, don't be technical. You can't tell me what I don't know using technical language. You're going to lose me. Gone, out the window. I can't tell you how many pitches I've sat on where the investor starts going, so it's written in Java, but we also use C++, sharp, and then we also, I'm like, oh, jeez. Is it written? Yes. Does it work? Yes. That's all I need to know. Yeah? Is it responsive on Mobi? Yes. That's all I need to know. How the code connects with the API, and then the plug in, and then there's a plug out, and an API, IPO, I don't know. Yeah? So what don't they know? Simplify it. Simplify it. So in my game, if I'm raising, what don't they know? They don't know the dynamics of Africa, right? So when I pitch to global investors, what am I telling them? Market. I can tell you now, these are the stats. Size of potential market, levels of education by region. We go south, east, west, north. That's how we break up the story. Because no one's going to listen to a story about 55 different countries. They will about 4 regions. So I go size of market, size of middle class is what I mean by size of market, levels of education, and it's important to show primary, secondary, university levels of education. Yeah? Then I show them the stats from the World Economic Forum about the entrepreneurial activity, the TEA, total entrepreneurship activity. I show them that. Levels of access to power, because without power you can't produce economies. Proliferation of the financial system. Why? Because if I'm an investor putting money in, I want to know I can get the money out. Those are that's the story before I go anywhere. I haven't started pitching why us yet. I've just told them why that market is important. What don't they know? Make sense? Then I jump to the next level and I go, but why should you care? Now you got to mention this, right? So just imagine this. I'm a person who works for an aid agency. I sit in London somewhere, you know, Covent Garden is my office. Downstairs is a beautiful shopping district. And here comes Vusi to see me to tell me to invest in a fund that invests in Africa. How do I get that person to care? And the only way to do this is you have to use a human story. And usually journey mapping is important. You've got to find a person, a story, an instance, a moment, and that's the story, instance, a moment that you use. So the way I do it, especially when I talk to guys in Europe, is I take them back to Europe 100 years ago. True story. There's a foundation run by a friend of mine called Damien. He and I did our MBA together. Really cool guy. How do you know somebody did an MBA? Yeah, they'll tell you. Yeah, it's true story. True story. He and I did our MBA together. See, did it twice now. And Damien sits on the board. I forget the name of this foundation, but he sits on the board of this foundation started by a guy who was an entrepreneur. He was trading out of London at the time. He used to sell cotton or something like that. And then when he died, he bought 2 farms in London. 2 farms. The name of the farms were Chelsea and I think Arsenal. Something like that. Both of them today, very, very pricey pieces of real estate. Yeah? So when I tell the story, I go, Africa today has that entrepreneur right now who could build a business that does that and in 100 years' time creates an endowment fund that funds other entrepreneurs. But if you don't invest, we can't find that entrepreneur. I've got to take them to the moment that matters for them. Yeah? So the second thing is you want to ask yourself is, why should you care? The third is, why you? Okay, so now I buy it. Okay, so I get kind of what I don't know. I get why it's important, but why are you the best person to do the job? Yeah? I think actually, even when you're pitching to clients, a lot of us fail at this stage. Yeah? Because we tend to generally be, come in guys, we tend to generally be self-effacing. How many of you here find it difficult to talk about yourself and tell people how amazing you are? Yeah, get over it. Here is how you do it. This is a true story, actually. They teach you this in public speaking. Do you know how you do it? This is a true story. Look yourself in the mirror every day and tell yourself how fantastic you are. You have to do it. Just look in the mirror. You are fantastic. You are amazing. Look at you. God damn. Girl, they should write poems about you. You are blazing and hot at the same time. Yeah? Get into the habit of telling yourself how fantastic you are, because if you can't claim it, it's very difficult to tell the rest of the world. Okay? And then the last thing is, now that you've told them all of this, what must they do? What is the action you're hoping for at the end of the meeting? Okay, so we've met. These are the 3 action items. I'm going to send you a proposal about this thing. When we're done, this is what I'm expecting from you. Yeah? I'm going to leave you with my business card. Can we meet in? Very quickly, we don't have a lot of time. I want to give you guys some, this is so important, some sales tips. Never leave a meeting without a scheduled meeting to follow. If you're in the meeting and you got that meeting, don't leave until the next meeting is booked. Because I'm sitting in front of you, right? So it's, okay, so I'm going to send you the proposal. Then I'm going to ask you for another meeting? No. How about I send you the proposal now? Have a look at your calendar. Tell me what it looks like. Can we meet in 2 weeks' time? Bet it down while you're in the room. You ever had a first meeting and then it takes the person forever to commit to a second meeting? Then eventually you give up? Yeah, they knew at the end of the first meeting the second meeting wasn't going to happen. Which is fine. You can also say to the person, now that we've met, I've pitched it to you, are you interested in taking the conversation forward, or would you rather take some time to think about it? People who want to think about it, I can tell you now the person's not going to buy. They're nodding. Yeah? Is this making sense? I promise you now, get good at doing this. You are fundamentally going to change your success rates at how your story is understood, how your story is heard, and how you get people to take action. But the most important thing, you have to be clear about what people must do at the end of every encounter, at the end of every session, the end of every meeting. What must they do? What's the action item? What's next? What are the 3 things I have to do? Phone me, schedule another meeting, introduce me to your board members. Can I come and pitch? And if the person commits, then can we book it now? Be forceful. Yeah. I don't know if you guys do, but do you guys have cappuccino meetings? I call them cappuccino meetings. Yeah. Let's meet over a cappuccino. Yeah, I don't do that shit. I really just don't. I don't do it, man. The meet over the cappuccino. No. Because if we're going to talk business, I'm either coming to your office or you're coming to mine. I'm happy for us to watch Kenya beat Tanzania 3-2. I'm just saying. But then, let's schedule it as a meeting where we're going to watch Kenya beat Tanzania. Let's not say it's a business meeting over cappuccino. Because we're not going to talk business. Let's just be honest about it. If you want me to come over to your house and have a social conversation, yeah, I'll come over to your house and have a social conversation. That's cool. But don't give me the idea that we're going to talk about something other than the thing we're going to talk about and nothing's going to come from it. Remember, you asked the question, what are the 5 mistakes entrepreneurs do? I said you raise too early. So what do you want to do? You want to get as many people through this funneling system as possible. As many people as possible. This is a sales approach, guys. I've taught it to my own sales team. This is how we approach all clients that we're talking to. Yeah? At the end, what are the action steps? What must they do? Any of you here in your businesses have a template contract, a sign-on form, an onboarding document, anything like that? Get one. At the end of the first meeting, send a template contract. Discuss terms, send a template contract. We do it. It's a fantastic way to weed out the rats from the mice. So we met, we've discussed, I'm selling these pens. We discussed that I sell these pens for $1 each. You said you need 10 pens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a customer on-take document. It's going to be a 1-pager. I just need you to commit that you're going to buy 10 pens and when you're thinking about buying them. But the reason I need the information, Mr. Customer, is so that I can give it to my salespeople and my marketing people so we can unload you onto the system. So I can ask you for your banking information so we can unload you onto the invoicing system. So when the time is right, I can invoice you without asking for the information. But I'm going to ask you that at the end of the first meeting. I'm not going to waste 3-4 meetings with you telling me, well, is the pen blue? Is it red? Does it write? Does it not write? Is it a permanent marker? Is it not? I don't have the time. Do you want the pen? Yes or no? Good. Then give me some sort of on-take commitment that you want the pen. Once I've got that, I am happy to talk about what color the pen is, how long the pen is, how light the pen is, who uses the pen. We can have all those conversations, but at the very least, I want to get some sort of commitment. Weed the rat from the mice, man. You're an entrepreneur. You're not working on a corporate. Your check isn't guaranteed. Yeah? I'm cognizant of time. Can we do 3 more questions, guys? 3 more. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, wow. Yeah, you had yours up first, but we also haven't had. Have we had a lady before? We haven't. So your turn.
Yeah. So my question is on your expansion strategy.
Yes.
And what are the things that you're looking for? You're expanding, and that connects to you saying you're having an office in Kenya, in Nigeria, and why not Tanzania? Why not other country? You know, so that could be a man.
I knew this was
why?
coming.
Yes, you should.
As I made that statement, I was like, damn it.
Yes. And at what time are you actually looking at low-hanging fruit in terms when you are actually expanding, or rather, is it a sustainability part of it? Is it going with the grain? You know, all those things. But mostly, what are you looking for while you are expanding?
Yeah, great question. 3 things top of mind. I mean, I've not actually considered that question quite as outwardly as you're proposing it. I can tell you kind of 3 things, right, intuitively. The first is distribution. So why Kenya? A larger market than yours, larger middle class than yours, higher levels of access to electricity than yours, higher proliferation of banking infrastructure. That's why. As a person who loves his country, I imagine you guys do too. Sometimes it's hard to hear that maybe not us. You know, it's a bit like asking a girl out and she goes, well, you're too short. And it's like, because then you're like, but I can't get taller. You know, if you tell me I'm too fat, I can get smaller. If you tell me I'm too dark, I can get lighter, but I can't get taller. It's like, you know, what am I going to do? Eat fertilizer? I can't grow, you know? So distribution is the most important. And for any of you who are thinking about expansion and strategy for your businesses, distribution. Go where the market is. You know, it's a no-brainer. Don't be an outlier somewhere and hope the market will find you there, right? So that's kind of the first thing I think about from an expansion platform. The second is talent. Talent, man. People are everything. People are I promise you now, people are the multiplier. I don't care what business you're in. People are the multiplier. The companies that achieve exponential growth, it's linked to the people in the business. I guarantee it. That's why you got to be careful who you bring in. You got to be careful who you hire. And once you bring them in, you got to make sure that you develop them, that you grow them. My team will tell you, if you work for me, you are learning something all the time. Because I tell them all the time, if I'm changing as a leader, the market we're in is changing, and the business I run is changing, and you're not, guess what happens? After a few years, we're going to have to stop dating. You're going to find yourself out of kilter with where we are. Does it make sense? Logically, it makes sense. If the instrument you're in, if I'm playing for a soccer team, and everybody in the soccer team is getting better at their part that they play, and the teams we're playing are getting better, and FIFA's changing the rules, and I don't, sooner or later I'm going to be the weak link in the team. Yeah? Talent. So when you're thinking about expansion, you want to think about where can I get the best people? Yeah? Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. I definitely wouldn't say that. It's not about whether or not they have better people. It's about whether or not I can find the quality of people I'm looking for. There's some things in markets are parity. Everybody kind of has the same. You know, does South Africa have better people than you? No. But are there good people here and there? Yes. Yeah? And then the third would probably be ease of doing business. Hey, and you guys, man. Hey. Yeah, it's rough here. It's rough. But ease of doing business is important, right? And guys, I want to tell you, there are 55 countries in this continent. None of us can boast about the ease of doing business. All of us are getting it wrong. All of us. It's just, I say this to the revenue authorities all the time. The problem with much of the continent of Africa is that our governing systems are built on first world model of governance in a third world environment. It's just too many times I've got to submit returns, too many reports, the labor relations are too rigid, it's too much. Africa needs to play for where Africa is, not where it hopes to be. It's so powerful, I should tweet it. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
The Kenyans are more informative than us, even if, or when you actually look at these funds, when they're being advertised or they're being put in their website for the people to apply, you find most of the money go to Kenya and not to us. So they're more proactive, I'll say that.
Is that true?
Yes.
All right.
100.
You okay? You disagree?
No.
That's cool. It's okay. That's okay.
And also, even if actually he disagrees, it's
Absolutely.
okay.
Sure.
Because you
It's
say
your
that-
perspective, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Kenyans are aggressive. But yeah, I don't want to anchor on this, but suffice it to say that hold on. Suffice it to say, I had a meeting with someone, and the first thing they said to me, they said, yeah, Vusi, so you're going to do your keynote, it's going to be so good. And they said to me, but I just want to talk to you a bit about, there was a word they used, tone of voice. And the people here really love it when you don't say I a lot. They really love it when I said bullshit. I'm not going to change me for the people. Then I wouldn't be here. Yeah? It's an interesting one, actually. How many of you here find it difficult to just naturally be aggressive, to push? Yeah? That's okay. Most of you? The rest of you are just lying? Okay? Let me ask the question differently. How many of you here do cold calls to clients? You just get on the phone and you phone a person. Yeah. The rest of you all find it difficult to push. What do you think a cold call is? A cold call is a person who's not expecting you to call them, but you phone them. And then you convince them that at that moment to stop whatever they were doing and do you. Not literally, but to stop what they were doing and be concerned with what you're phoning about. And then you want to get them to take action. That's being forceful. If you're not doing that, you're right. You're being soft. And you can try it. And nothing wrong with being soft, guys. There are many successful entrepreneurs who are not forceful. They're quite soft, but you just got to know what your playbook is. We've got 2 more questions. So we had one. Let's do 2 more. Have we had one from this side? I don't think we have. Let's take this gentleman here. How are we doing? We're still getting value? Good. Thank you.
So I'm Rumisho.
You are?
Rumisho. Perfect. As compared to, let's say, yourself, or someone who has experience with working in the corporate space, where you learn a lot about organization structure, processes, and procedure. Now, as an entrepreneur who you've started out without that base, you often find that you get straight on into the process, finding what you're selling and just selling what you're selling. Process, procedures doesn't really form part of the equation. Now, as your business scales up and moves forward, you now start, these things start catching up. You didn't have the right metrics of measuring results per, let's say, when you have a team. You don't have the right metrics of establishing how much output do I want Vusi to bring to my team, to my business. Let's say at what time, so this whole idea of setting strategies, plans, goals, these things are more or less gray, black and white. They're not very clear. No, actually they're gray. So how do you navigate that process? Because it comes to a point that is where you find now regulations come in, You now get overwhelmed. You start getting booked for liabilities that you don't see them coming or they weren't there. So how do you navigate that part?
That's a very good question, by the way. So I kind of always think about it this way, right? So imagine this is revenue in my business, and this is time, right? And so I maybe before I make this point, one of the things I'm fascinated by is founders that run listed companies. And I think it's a book I've been thinking about working on, because the mentality of a founder is very different to the mentality of the guy that runs a listed company. You're like, there are a few in South Africa. We've got a few. I'm sure there's some here. Let me use an example. Jeff Bezos fascinates me. Not because he's a wealthy guy. Yeah. The guy went from thinking like a founder to thinking like a CEO. Very different mindset. Like, what goes into a day in the life of a founder is very different to what goes into a day in the life of a CEO. Very different, right? And the question I ask myself is, when did they know at what point they would need to make a transition? Make sense? So in my mind, I kind of have like this model, right? Where I go, so first, at a particular time in your business, what you're going to have to learn to do is to manage yourself. Yeah? Then you have to get to a point where you learn to manage others. Yeah? But it grows beyond that, and you've got to get to a point where you learn how to manage managers. Yeah? And if the business continues to grow and you're lucky, well, then you not only have to manage leaders, but you're going to have to lead leaders. And if it gets beyond that point, then, my friend, you're going to have to learn to inspire generations. These are very different people. Very different people. That's why some names are immortal, right? Like Steve Jobs, immortal. Because even though he's not here, he inspired generations. Yesterday, Financial Times published, I don't know if you guys saw it, John Ive just left Apple. John Ive inspired generations. The entire user interface today of much of the mobile telecommunications world is because of John Ive. If you think about it. But these guys are very, very different. Very different. And the point is, you've got to catch yourself at the different stages of your business. The hard thing, I don't know if you guys make the same mistake I do. So this is what I do, and I know it's a mistake, but I make it anyway. I give my team a task to do. Say we're here. I think we're kind of, where's our firm? We're probably somewhere here. So I give my team a task to do, and the task doesn't get done. What do you think is the first thing I do? I go there. I'll do it myself. It's called the Naidu syndrome. You guys ever met Mr. Naidu? Nobody does it better than I do. Did you get that? That's clever. Naidu, nobody does it better than I do. Yeah? And so, but this denies your accountability, because you're not holding people accountable now. Yeah? And often you'll do it because you're under pressure for business results or a client deadline or something like that. So you just go, I'm just going to get involved. I'll do it myself. Yeah? The trick is you've almost got to catch yourself. And then most importantly is you've got to know what turns you on. You've got to know what's fun for you. What do you enjoy? I am an amazing leader. I am. I'm a shit manager. I suck. Just the idea of signing somebody's leave form doesn't turn me on, man. Doing a payroll reconciliations, it's like, it's doing a performance review. Did you perform? Yes. No, you didn't. You're fired. But HR will tell you there's a 4-page form, you've got to schedule it, it's going to be a 360 review. I'm like, but he knows he's not performing. He can see he's not performing. It makes sense? Because I love operating in this space here. But when you start a business, I recognize you've got to do this. Yeah? Any of you, wait, I'm conscious of time. Have you ever had this? When you do stuff, it's amazing. Then your business grows and you hire people. Then you start doing other stuff. Then 6 months you come back to the stuff you used to do, you go, what the hell are they doing? Does that ever happen to you? And it's like, I wouldn't have put the logo like that. Guys, who put the logo like this? Yeah? Because when you do it, it's how you do it. Then there's the way your team does it. And I think there's a book there. There's a fine line between giving people the freedom of expression at work and knowing when to say, no, it's enough now. Stop. Compliance and, that's why banks just don't allow bank managers to give loans out anymore, because they all ended up with bad loans. So what they did is they centralized the risk system, centralized the credit system. When you go to the bank manager literally manages the bank. He makes sure that people are there on time. But the decisions get made by a centralized credit team sitting at head office, not the bank manager. Yeah? And so as your business grows, you're just going to have to figure out for you where you are and what changes are that you need to make. Does that make sense? Where do you think you are now, by the way, Romisho?
I think I'm trying to be where you're at. At the same time, the reality of the situation is I have to be at the manager's place.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Why?
Sorry?
Why?
Why? So management involves processes. It's a very scientific thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a very good background in that. Actually, I don't have a background in that. So I have to learn on the go. Now, when you're learning on the go, you don't really have the luxury of time.
Yeah.
Especially when each mistake that is done, each thing that doesn't go right, it's a cost to the business.
Are you signed to the University of YouTube?
What happens at the University of YouTube?
You just go on YouTube and you YouTube a video about the thing you don't know, and then you find as many experts. I call it the University of YouTube. It's the fastest growing university in the world. Hands up, the University of YouTube faculty members. Hands up, University of YouTube alumni. Hey, we're all here. We're all here. Like somebody at work mentions something, I go, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Now write it down. University of YouTube. Google coding in Java. Download a video, I'm on the plane, I'm like, that's what they talk. It's University of YouTube, man. So try it. For me, the University of YouTube is really, really cool, especially if there's something I'm uncertain about. So if I was you, I'd go and YouTube stuff like, how do I make efficient, how do I, designing efficient management processes for a tech company. You're going to get like 1,000 results. Just start finding the people who run a channel. This is the trick. Don't find the guy that posts a video. Find the people who run a channel. Because people that run a channel are subject matter experts in the thing they're talking about. And if you go down their stream, you're going to find 15 other videos that build up to the knowledge. That's what you want to get to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's a great question, by the way. Guys, all of us in this room are battling with this. Am I right? All of us, like a real entrepreneurship conversation, we're all somewhere here. Somewhere here. I am a doer. I love doing. Like if I didn't do what I do, I would be an actor in pornography. I wouldn't make the pornography movies. Don't record this, please. I wouldn't make the movies. I wouldn't produce them. I wouldn't be behind the scenes. I would be acting. I would be, because I really do. I genuinely enjoy taking stuff and putting it together, breaking it. I love the process of that. I got the ladies with this, and the ladies are like, this guy is this. Yeah, but I love the process of it, right? But I also know that the thing about this is I have to figure out how to take my time and give my time higher return. Yeah? That's why the coach usually gets paid more than the players. Not always, but usually. It's because his job is to stand off the field, watch the configuration of play, analyze what the competitors are doing, see the results on the scoreboard, and change the results by making a series of decisions. So even if the striker isn't scoring, the coach doesn't get the benefit of going, let me go score. He has to go, what other resource do I have, and how do I change the resources to change the results? Sometimes the striker's not scoring because you're playing, as you guys did, a 3-5-1 configuration. And he's going, well, maybe what I should do is change the configuration, get more strikers up, and then I'll get a better result. Make sense? So you got to figure out that difference, and it's such a fine mix. such a fine mix. This, my friend, is the art of arts. The guy who wins this game is the guy who changes everything. Last question, then we're done. Ooh, now there's 2 questions. Do you mind if I'll take both of you as the same question? This is 1 + 1. Okay, great. Let's start with the lady first, then take him, and I'll just answer both, and then we close.
My name is Juliana Mataba. I want to know about my growth fund. I want to know about that.
Cool, I'll tell you about it.
Yeah. How do we actually? How can we raise our capital?
Cool. Okay.
Vusi, I must really acknowledge the fact that I'm extremely excited and delighted to be here
Thank
to
you,
hear you. I tried to connect you on Instagram DMs a couple times, but
On
we
Instagram?
chatted a little bit. Yeah, Instagram DMs.
Did you in-mail me?
Yeah, I sent you a couple messages there.
Did you?
Yeah.
I apologize. True story, I've got 140,000 requests for connections on Instagram.
I can
On
understand.
LinkedIn, rather. So it's
I can understand. So my name is James.
Send it again.
Okay.
But after this.
No. My name is James. I'm a speaker, author, and consultant.
Right.
Just like you do. I have 3 questions. I wonder if I can ask all of them. Short.
We'll treat them as one, so it'll be 1.1.
All right. The first one is on knowledge base. What kind of system do you have in place to ensure that you're constantly, on the cutting edge of knowledge about businesses, investments at a global level, as you are? Because every time I hear you, wherever you are, you're really sharp and on point. Secondly, if you had a pool of, say, 500 interns that you inspired, because I have a project with a bank that allowed me to speak to like 6,000 university students, teaching them on work skills, people skills, and all of that. How would you leverage on that? Say if you wanted to build a business in, let's say, tourism, how would you make use of these guys? And finally, it's on your books and resources. How do we get hold of your books here?
Let me start with the first question. I don't know. I mean, there's a company called nuria.co.ke, and it's actually run by an entrepreneur based in Kenya who bought my books on consignment, and then he sells them in much of Kenya, here, Ethiopia, and Rwanda as well. Maybe what we should do in terms of the question about the book is after this, if any of you are interested, let's kind of get some sort of database going. I can get a few books sent to the guys here at Sahara, and we can do the trade that way. Do you guys see what I mean about African borders? It's a bloody book. But now I must worry about sending it and paying custody. It's ridiculous. It frustrates the hell out of me. It really, really does. Like, guys, I'll tell you a true story. In the US, when my books are sold, I don't know which states they sold, and all I know is that they sell. And all I had to do was to get them to one place in the US, and Amazon did the distribution in the rest of it. This is why the EU is the EU. It's a free trade market. It's a free movement market. You can get your stuff in London. All of a sudden, it's going to be everywhere. Well, not anymore. Not after Brexit. So I promise you now, if there's one thing all of us must be united on, we can differ on many things. We must be united on 2 things. Both the Tanzanian and South African soccer teams are bad. That's the first thing we must just agree. We need to agree on this, okay? And then the second thing we need to agree on is that we all collectively as entrepreneurs have to start putting pressure on our leaders to pull down these borders, man. If I buy a Maasai print shirt here, for you it's just Maasai. They're around the corner, they're everywhere. In my country it'll fly because that culture has a novelty. Same too if I sell Zulu beads. Here, novelty. My country is just the thing. I think we just got to tell the leaders that the colonizers did leave. They left. So you have the permission to do it differently. I think they never got that memo. So that was on the second question, the middle question you asked, the one about I have no idea. I don't know. The interns one, he asked the question about interns. One thing about me is the answer is I don't know. I don't know. And then the question about the knowledge base is, so here's what I did in my game. It differentiated me then, and I continue to do it now. I invest in getting people into the firm whose pure job is to give me market-leading knowledge. I have a full research team behind me. Most people who do what I do speak as a one-man shows. I'm not. I have a full outfit of people. As we sit, I'm not kidding, I have an entire research team right now working on research mandates right now. That's all they do, just research. Right? Because I understood the currency of knowledge. I'm the most expensive speaker in the continent. Right, so when clients bring me in, they bring me in because I have to know something they don't know. And in today's world with the University of YouTube, that's hard. So in a world of content, what's my job? Context. That's my job is I literally come in and I go, you guys are looking at this completely the wrong way. This is how you've got to look at it. And I invest. I would show you my wage bill. These are well-trained master's graduates, honors graduates, and they work full-time for me, and their job is just research. That's it. That's all they do. So everything I do is informed by empirical evidence and data. Because in my world, if my data is incorrect, I lose credibility. Remember this? If my data is incorrect, I lose credibility. People won't trust me. And trust is the currency in which I operate. Okay? So what I would say to you, in fact, here's a great idea. You went and spoke at universities? Yeah, like 20 of them. Yeah, what I'd do is I'd go to those same universities and say, guys, I'm looking for 5 interns who don't mind a half-a-day job on research. And I'd bring those interns in and I'd give them different research mandates. One of them for a month. Investigate for me what is going to be the impact of automation and robotics in the East African economy. And then their full-time job is to read Wall Street Journal, read the World Economic Forum, read the Financial Times, read robotics.ai, go and read all of those and put together for me a simple research document that's 30 pages long about what the impact is going to be. They're going to spend 30 days doing it. It's going to take you 4 hours to read. In 4 hours, you're going to get 30 days worth of knowledge. And if you get 4 or 5 people doing the same thing, guess what happens every 4 hours? You're getting 30 days worth of knowledge. I tell you when I realized it. I realized that when I was doing my book, my first book, The Magna Carta, it took me 8 years to do it. When we first wrote the book, it was 800 pages. In the printed format, it's just over 250. I worked deliberately to condense the book from 800 to 250 pages. One, because I hate reading long books. I don't know if you guys are the same. Like if it's a Bible, I don't even know where to start. Do I start at the book of Psalms? Do I go right to Revelations where the world is ending? Do I start at Genesis? Like, where do I start? I ain't got the time. You know, what is the message? You know, give me the 10 Commandments. Great, just give me that chapter. You know? So what I realized is I wanted to condense the knowledge. So what I then did is I recognized that every author that's ever written a book has done that for me. Every author. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill's book. That book is the entire book on the pursuit of excellence, which was written, I think, 100 years before and is about 4 times the size. So I'm going to read that book because it condenses the idea. If you're in sales, read Grant Cardone's 10X rule. I just gave it to Vusi, who's in my team. It's 30 years worth of Grant Cardone's life condensed into 300 pages. If you want to learn about investing, Tony Robbins' book is a very good book, Master the Art of Money. He spent 4 years interviewing 5 of the best investors in the US, Ray Dalio, Carl Icahn, and 3 other guys. And then what he did is he condensed the learnings of those people and he put them in a book. You can read that in a week. And it's 4 years of his life. Yeah? Because there's just too much knowledge being generated. So that's what I did. And that's what I continue to do. For me, it's one thing I continue to invest in. Knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Research, research, research. Make sure always that you are at the top of your game when it comes to what's development, what's new, what's next, what's happening. You've got to know. Yeah? You've got to know. Last note, then I'm done. All of you here have workers in your businesses. Start employing thinkers. Workers are great, guys. Thinkers change the game. Yeah? And one of the things you learn about thinkers is they're notoriously lazy. By the way, you need a healthy mix of lazy people in your business. You want to know why? Because they will find the most efficient way to get things done. You know, you say to a worker, dig a hole. He starts digging. You know, the lazy guy goes, can't I find a thing to dig the hole for me? Now he's innovating now, you know? So you gotta, I promise you, getting lazy people, lazy people are fantastic. And then you take your most complex problem, you give it to the laziest person with an amazing deadline, and you watch as they change the world. Okay, guys, I hope you drew some value for this. This, for me, was amazing. This is kind of how I reconnect and refuel. I'm really humbled that you've had me here. To the guys at Sahara Ventures, you guys kick ass. We should definitely exchange details, see what else we can do together. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Vusi. Have you guys enjoyed? Say yeah! Say yeah!
I recognize that I didn't answer the question. So my growth fund is our VC firm. This is the one we're using to expand into the rest of the continent. That's why if you notice the logo, it's a series. If you notice the logo, it's a series of dots connected by the continent. And the reason it's called My Growth Fund is very simple. One, because we're good at growth, not startups. Two, because we believe that the entrepreneur has to take ownership of the journey, not us. So it's my growth. And fund, because we believe that without money, you can't catalyze the system.
Thank you.
No, it's fair.
Perfect. So I'm going to welcome our group CEO, Mr. Jumene Mtambalike, to say thank you, Nat. And how's the day?
That's why I use 1 minute. Good afternoon, Vusi. Good afternoon. This is very exciting. Vanessa, where is that book? Please, bring it. Bro, before anything, please, can you sign this for me and my daughter? Yeah. Yeah, so, okay. So are there a couple of books you need this guy to sign? Because I have his copy of Vusi, the Black Dragon. No, this is mine. Yeah, for the records. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Thank you so much, Vusi and your team. Thank you so much. My brother, I think you need to mention
Ligi.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Ligi, and your team. We highly appreciate coming here. Vusi, we highly appreciate your time. We know you had a very tight schedule, but still you had to squeeze us in. And this is a lesson for all of us as entrepreneurs. You should always have time for the community, because there's a lot of people, I'm very sure you have transformed them here today. I know there's a lot of guys who want, and ladies who want to be amazing and successful motivation speaker. That being said, on behalf of Sahara Ventures, I won't like to eat any further time. Please visit our platform as an entrepreneur. I need to promote this, www.saharaventures.com, and let's keep connecting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jumene. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Yes, you can go now.